If you hold any altcoins, the crypto market is about to absolutely skyrocket by the end of this year, and I'm not only going to prove it to you in this video, so I want you to pay very close attention to what I'm going to share with you, because if you want to make money in crypto, you need to know this. We're going to dive into the Bitcoin to the US dollar price chart and where we are in this macro market cycle based on the Wyckoff schematic, what we all need to be ready for based on the psychology of a market cycle. We're talking about the total altcoin industry compared to Bitcoin's price and where we are, and some bold predictions I made in the past that are happening right now, and what I expect to happen moving forward to help you make a lot of money. So if you like making money and you like crypto, then give this video a like and comment 777 down below. And as always, if you're going to become the first millionaire in your family tree, you know what to do. Confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. Let's run it. All right, bull runners, welcome back to the channel. So last night I opened up this trade right here and it looks like about $3,900 in profit. And this is applying what you guys will learn inside of the Technical Analysis Essentials training inside of Altcoin Pro. So you guys can check that out through the link below. But I also spotted this bearish divergence in this uptrend for this coin right here. After this massive breakout, if we zoom in here on the 5-minute chart, you guys can see the price chart made a higher high, whereas the stochastic RSI made a lower high above 80, and the relative strength index dropped from 81 to about 73. So in my previous videos, I talked about bearish divergences, how as the price chart makes a higher high and key indicators like the stochastic RSI and the relative strength index make a lower high, it signals that momentum is shifting from bullish to bearish momentum. So we entered right here into a short as close to the top as possible, and as you can see, the price reversed and we flipped from bullish to bearish in a downtrend, and I simply moved my stop loss into profit. So worst case scenario for this trade is I make over $2,000, and if this trade continues to drop, then I can just trail this stop loss and drag this wherever I want. So at this point, I'm just going to keep it right here, right above this key resistance level right here. So if the price reverses and taps this green line right here, I'll close this trade out at about $2,000 in profit. And so if you guys want to learn how to read charts, plug into Altcoin Pro University, go through the Technical Analysis Essentials training, and you'll learn everything that you need to know to have a strong foundation to become a better trader, because you can apply these strategies to any altcoin, whether they're going up or down. If a project is dropping 50 to 90% and you short that project, you can make a lot of money. So tap in with us, guys. And just for plugging in your information, we're giving away $100 worth of XRP too. If you want to apply for that, just go check out the Twitter post right here. The link for that will be in the description and below, and you'll get our free book too. So we want to provide as much value as humanly possible on this channel to help you guys win this bull run, because what's going to come next for the altcoin industry is going to shock a lot of people. For example, the United States M2 money supply has reached a record high of $21.86 trillion. And as you already know, Bitcoin's price action has been correlated with a little bit of an offset to M2. So as global liquidity expands, not only does that cause an expansion in Bitcoin, but altcoins follow Bitcoin. So if you look at this chart right here from TechDev, back in 2021, when the liquidity expansion began, we saw altcoins expanded and passed their all-time high. So we've seen the longest compression since crypto has existed and altcoins have existed in the global liquidity cycle. And just recently, global liquidity has started expanding. And so will that lead to an altcoin expansion coming soon? Well, we're going to dive into that on the price chart, because a lot of people are going to tell you that the bull run is over. There's no more upside. Anyone who's still buying is delusional. You've already missed it. Smart money's gone. The market is finished. Crypto has peaked. The opportunity isn't there. There's no point in believing now. You should sell what you have. It's all just a fantasy, but that's what they want you to believe, because when you're distracted and sitting on the sidelines, they're accumulating, they control the narrative, and they shake you out. And then they buy when you're too emotional to hold, falling into their trap, which is why over 90% of people fail in investing in general, whether it be stocks, crypto, you name it. So if you learn how to apply what I'm going to share with you over the next few minutes, then you can separate yourself from the 90% and join the 10%. And if you want to join the 1%, then check this out. The Genius Act, which is the stablecoin bill that we've been talking about the past few weeks, could pass as early as next week, according to Senator Cynthia Lummis.
We will start voting on the Genius Act, the stablecoin bill, this week. I don't think we're going to complete it this week. We'll probably have to go into next week, because a number of amendments will be filed. But we have worked long and hard to bring Democrats to the place where they can vote for cloture. I think we're there.
So what are the remaining hurdles for Democrats? What have they told you that their concerns are? What's keeping them from getting on board completely?
Well, we have generally agreed to many of the amendments they wanted. There were concerns about illicit finance. We've addressed some of those. and we're just waiting to see what amendments are filed by both parties as we move the bill to full consideration on the floor of the Senate.
So this isn't just bullish. This would be historic for certain cryptocurrencies, let alone the whole industry, because banks will finally trust digital assets, and this is how mass adoption begins. And money starts pouring back into the market alongside global liquidity, because you guys can see in yellow the expansion that has been happening for global liquidity since January of 2025, and now Bitcoin is catching up with that. And if we look right here at the Wyckoff schematic, you guys can see during phase A when Bitcoin sold off from about $109,000 all the way down to about $76,000 to $78,000. This was the markdown in phase A. And then we go into phase B, causing us to range between key levels of resistance and support. For example, we saw the price bounce right here from $77,000 up to $95,000, and then find a low right here at $76,000, which is right here in the Wyckoff schematic, which acts as support as the price works its way through this range back into these key levels of resistance that the price got rejected from right here and right here where it says AR at about $92,000 and $94,000. As you can see, when the price worked its way through this range right here, it got rejected from nearly $89,000 right here in phase B. That's what happened at this phase right here for Bitcoin. So then what happens? We get rejected from resistance and we work all the way back down here to support for phase C, which is the spring phase. And as you guys can see, we work all the way back down here to support, even dropping below it down here to about $74,000 for the spring phase to back test these key levels of support. Then we work our way through here. We go into phase D, which is the last point of support right around here before the massive breakout that took place from $84,000 back into this range right here for phase D, which is the SOS phase. And then we consolidate. And that consolidation pattern can be whatever. It could be a symmetrical triangle, a bull flag, rising wedge, falling wedge, whatever that looks like. In this case, this was just higher highs and higher lows right here when Bitcoin was ranging at this key level on top of the resistance as we transition from phase A to phase B. Right here when Bitcoin was at $94,000, you can see we consolidated on top of this range right here, which was also support all the way back here since November of 2024. You guys can see this whole entire range where the price wicked off of. So this was a very key level for Bitcoin to hold as we continued higher in phase E. Now what we're seeing happen is the markup phase. So after we've gone through this whole accumulation phase down here for Bitcoin sell-off, now we are going through this entire markup phase to reach distribution before another markdown phase. And we saw this last bull run cycle too with the double top. So where I believe we are in this market cycle right now is at some point during the markup phase right here or right here, as Bitcoin is seeing a trend reversal and now we're forming higher highs and higher lows. So once we reach the next buying climax and then we go through this whole distribution phase right here, and a failed retest and a breakdown from a key level of support, then you need to be ready because I'm going to explain what's going to happen for altcoins during this entire process. Because during the markup phase, you only have a few key opportunities left to be able to accumulate before the price starts to break out again. Because as I've said in previous videos, Bitcoin goes through these boring consolidation periods where the price moves sideways or just slightly up, or like we're going through right now, slightly down. And then in a period of a week or two, the price gets a massive amounts of liquidity injected into it and it shoots up very, very fast. Case in point, just proof of this is what happened right here on the 8th of May when Bitcoin's price went from $96,000 to $104,000. You didn't really have any time to buy on the daily chart. And also right here between the 21st of April and the 22nd of April. I mean, if you were out on the boat or you were camping for 2 days and you missed this, you wouldn't have been able to accumulate Bitcoin before that happened because it happens in the blink of an eye. So you have to be ready for this when it happens, because when it's going to happen again, it's going to happen quick. So in my opinion, my bold predictions here are just simply based on psychology and data that I see on the charts for when we're in key areas that are overbought or oversold, and also how the markets move based on people's emotions, because disbelief, this rally will fail like the others. We went through that in the early phase of Bitcoin's bull run when we saw this major trend reversal right here, where people thought this rally was going to fail. And when Bitcoin dropped to $25,000, a lot of people thought we were coming back down to retest these lows, but we were in a bull run at that point. As we broke into hope after that, when people were believing that a recovery is possible through this phase, leading to optimism. So in my opinion, that's what we've been going through ever since that breakout right here. And yes, we've seen these long consolidation phases right here. Some people are arguing that we are in the belief stage of the market cycle where it's time to get fully invested, but we're just not seeing that yet on Google Trends, because if you go here and you type in Bitcoin, virtually nobody cares as retail investors right now. If I sort over the past 5 years right here, you guys can see that retail interest isn't hot right now. It's at 23 out of 100, whereas everyone was excited back here Between November 10th and 16th of 2024, it was 69 out of 100. Very nice. And if we look at what was happening right here in November 2024, that was when Bitcoin's price was breaking out closer to $100,000. So this was a pure psychological level, which is why retail interest was very high at that point, because Bitcoin had never hit $100,000 before. And not only did it hit it, it broke above it and it consolidated on top of 90 to 100K before this major breakdown in the market. And with this breakdown right here to 70K, like I just showed you on the Wyckoff schematic, that scared a lot of retail investors out of the market. And this is just a fact. It's not my opinion, because you can see retail interest has been dropping, even though Bitcoin's price is now back up to the levels that it was at when it was 69 out of 100, but yet retail interest is showing 23 out of 100. So this is exactly what they want. They want to shake retail out of the market before they send the markets into belief, thrill, and euphoria. And so based on this alone, I don't think we're at the thrill euphoria stage yet, because Bitcoin is just sitting right on top of $100,000. And I think we're going to hit that thrill and euphoria stage by the end of this year. But first, I'm expecting some volatility in the short term for Bitcoin, where we could even potentially retest $97,000 or $100,000 if we see a sell-off back down to these levels right here that Bitcoin consolidated at right before the major sell-off and right before the major markup. That's definitely a possibility, but eventually I do expect a liquidity injection to happen for Bitcoin that will lead us into optimism, belief, and thrill, causing retail interest to spike back up and for retail to start coming back into the market as they always do, buying when the market's breaking out and running when it's actually the best time to buy when the market's dipping. And if we look at total 2, which is the crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin compared to Bitcoin's price chart, I made a video comparing Ethereum to Bitcoin and what was coming for Ethereum before that breakout took place, which is exactly what we saw. And what I can see right here, right now on the total 2 chart compared to Bitcoin, is when Bitcoin broke out of this downtrend on the 12th of April and consolidated on top of this descending resistance right here. This is what we saw right here for the total altcoin market when we also broke this downtrend right here before the breakout for altcoins back into this resistance. This is what Bitcoin went through right here by the 22nd of April. So altcoins lag behind Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the main market mover. It moves first, then certain altcoins follow. And then that causes total 2, which is pretty much the whole industry, to rally up. As you guys can see, the market cap of the industry is at 1.17 trillion, minus Bitcoin, obviously. And we're going through this consolidation phase right here, which is simply a bull flag before a continuation of the uptrend. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to go up right away, because if we experience, let's say, a sharper pullback for Bitcoin to liquidate a lot of long traders before sending the market higher, well then, yes, total 2 could fall down in the short term a little bit further. But if this were to happen, this would just present the best buying opportunity before we break resistance and retest the previous high from the 8th of December to, the 12th of January within this level right here, because that is what Bitcoin did. As you guys can see right here on this candle on the 8th of May with this massive liquidity injection, this caused Bitcoin to break out to backtest roughly $105,000, which was a key resistance that Bitcoin got rejected from all the way back here in the middle of December, and also right here around the end of January before the sell-off took place. And so I think that's what's coming next for altcoins, because you guys can see this resistance up here, the 7th of December, and the resistance right here in the middle of January as the next stop for the altcoin market, similar to what happened for Bitcoin during this range right here. So that would put the altcoin market at roughly 1.5 trillion to 1.6 trillion dollars. But in order for that to happen, we would need to see Bitcoin breaking out higher. So I do believe there's some more volatility in the short term for Bitcoin. If we see a liquidity flush and a sell-off for Bitcoin, well then that would lead to a liquidity flush for altcoins as well too, which would just lead to a better buying opportunity. And I showed you guys this on Ethereum's price chart right around here at the start of May, when Ethereum broke out of this downtrend right here and was consolidating on top of it, similar to Bitcoin, around April 22nd before the breakout took place, back into this range right here as resistance. That's what Ethereum is going through right now. So when Bitcoin makes another move to the upside, depending on when that happens, well, then that would cause Ethereum to break resistance and to backtest the previous high of $4,000 as well too. And you guys know what that means. Well, if Ethereum starts to break out, then people get extremely bullish on altcoins again. And if you guys caught the video that I made 3 weeks ago, well, here's exactly what I said. And so if we look at total 2's chart, excluding Bitcoin, compared back to the past, I brought this up in a previous video and I talked about how when we transitioned from yellow to light green, we were still in this downtrend for the entire altcoin market, bouncing off of this zone of support once, 2, 3 times before we saw an eruption to the upside for the altcoin market. And if we look on the right hand side of the screen, we've just bounced off of it one time. So it's still not out of a possibility for the altcoin market to pull back within this range. But if we see a break of this level that we're at right now, the next resistance is at roughly $1.3 trillion. If we march up in this level right here, well, then it's more comparable to what we went through right here after July of 2021 when the market broke out to September of 2021. We just formed higher highs, higher lows, and there was just volatility on the way up without a real serious pullback until we breached just barely above the previous high. Then we saw that pullback with Bitcoin right here, and the altcoin market pulled back about 29%. So at some point there will be a steeper pullback of 20 to 30%. The real question is, when does that take place? Because if we look at the stochastic RSI, we see the K line's at 40, the D line's at 22. Even with this breakout, we've seen the stochastic RSI reset from 100, but it's still not below 20 for both the K line and the D line. The relative strength index is at 68, and we broke out of this range that we were at below 50 during that pullback since the beginning of February until the 22nd of April. Look on the left-hand side of the screen. From the 18th of May until roughly the 23rd of July, we were below 50. While the altcoin market was beneath $1 trillion, we're now breaking out above 50, and the altcoin market is still below the major resistance at $1.3 trillion. That is the major level to watch because it held up as support from the 20th of December until the 2nd of February and acted as resistance here all the way until the beginning of March. That's a very strong zone of resistance right there. If you guys look at Total 2's chart at the top of the screen, that's exactly where we rallied to and then got rejected from, and now we're consolidating under. So when that next move takes place, it's going to cause Total 2 to erupt through that resistance to the next range, which would be where the previous high was at 1.65 trillion to the complacency stage at $1.56 trillion. This would be the next level that I would watch for. And sometimes when these breakouts take place, we do stuff like this where we blast through the range and then we come back and we back test it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we get rejected from here and we consolidate below it like we did right here, which was a little bit different than last bull run cycle. As you guys can see on the left-hand side of the screen, we didn't really get rejected from that range. We actually broke through it. Then we came back down to back test it. Whereas this time around, we did get rejected from it. But check this out. And as you guys can see, last bull run, it was a similar level right here as well too that was resistance that acted as support when Total 2 flipped it by the middle of August right here. We see multiple points of contact as a strong zone of support. And so the MACD line is currently above 0. We have seen momentum shift on the histogram a little bit, but we saw something similar around here, around August of 2021, a little bit of a shift on the histogram, but yet the MACD line in blue stayed above the signal line. Currently, the MACD line is above the signal line right now. So even with the short-term momentum shift on the histogram, we could see this be a fake out in the MACD line to reverse back to the upside, while the relative strength index tops out somewhere above 70, and then for us to start some type of bearish divergence with lower highs on the relative strength index, while Total 2 just puts in higher highs and higher lows, marching up closer to the $1.3 trillion resistance, putting in lower highs for the stochastic RSI as well too. And if you look right here, that's exactly what happened on the relative strength index. We broke out from 51, we topped out at 82 with that rally back into this zone of resistance right here, and we've started forming lower highs on the relative strength index, and the stochastic RSI has come back down here below 20 and reset. So on the next major move up for Total 2, this will happen after the relative strength index has found its low and experiences the next bounce. The real question is, will the next high for the relative strength index on that breakout be lower than the high that was right here on the 10th of May for this bearish divergence? That's the real question that we need to look for, because when that starts to happen and we see higher highs on the price chart, but if we see lower highs on the relative strength index, that would signal that momentum would eventually start shifting over from bullish momentum to eventually bearish momentum to the next bear market. And look at what's happening with Ethereum too on the price chart. So I opened up a long on Ethereum, and currently it's a little over $3,000 in profit because of what's happening on the Bitcoin price chart right now. As you guys can see, Bitcoin has been in this downtrend since the end of January, even since December, just forming lower highs and lower lows. Same thing for Ethereum. Ethereum's been pulling back since December in this bearish channel. And just recently, we saw Ethereum break out of this descending resistance at the end of April and consolidate right here at roughly $1,800 to $1,900. It's similar to what happened for Bitcoin. Right here between the 12th of April until the 21st of April, where Bitcoin broke above this descending resistance and consolidated for a little bit, and then broke out back above this zone of resistance and holds it as support. So where that would be for Ethereum is roughly around $2,300. And so if Ethereum pushes above this range and holds it as support, then Ethereum could experience more bullish price action to the upside, because Ethereum, guys, has been bleeding out for a while now, for over 122 days. Even longer than that, since the 10th of March, Ethereum has not passed that high of roughly 4,000, $100-ish. So I think a lot of people are still counting Ethereum out, but I'm most likely just going to do a trailing stop on this position right here. So that simply means I moved my stop loss up as Ethereum continues to climb. Worst case scenario on this trade is I break even on it if Ethereum pulls back to $1,852. So Ethereum would have to pull all the way back here in order for me to break even on this trade. And if I want to move the stop loss, I just simply drag it all the way up here. Now, if Bitcoin experiences a major pullback and just reverses back to the downside, then, Ethereum might pull back in the short term and my trade might close out at a break even, worst case scenario. Or I just continue to ride this trade up, moving my stop loss up as Ethereum makes higher highs and higher lows alongside Bitcoin the next few weeks. But here's the problem. In order to do this correctly, you guys have to have a strong foundation of risk management and everything. So that's why I shared the Technical Analysis Essentials course with you guys. You can go through the link in the description below. On top of everything else that is inside of Altcoin Pro University, we got top altcoin picks, we have DeFi yield picks, airdrop picks, on top of weekly calls every single Monday through Thursday. So this video is coming out Wednesday. You guys should be able to attend at 9 p.m. tonight, the kickoff call, which is an onboarding call, showing you how to master Altcoin Pro University and fast track your learning so you can avoid the biggest rookie mistakes in crypto and start building your crypto success story from day one. Because if Ethereum starts to break out, guys, then we will see an altcoin run like no other. ETH to Bitcoin is forming a bull flag, breaking out of this downtrend here that has been in for 6 months. And as you know, we don't just go down forever. I think Ethereum is going to shock a lot of people. It's just taken a little bit longer because Ethereum has just underperformed relative to Bitcoin. But Bitcoin's dominance is showing some macro bearish divergence on the monthly chart. And when Bitcoin's dominance drops, you know what that means for altcoins. We're going to see a massive explosion. So right here, you guys can see back in September of 2019, when Ethereum to Bitcoin was just getting absolutely destroyed. We bottomed out down here on the stochastic RSI. The relative strength index came all the way down to 24 right here. And then we experienced a bullish cross below the zero line for the MACD. Well, just recently, Ethereum has bottomed out on the 21st of April. Look at what happened on the stochastic RSI. We experienced a bullish cross well below 20, as close to zero as possible. The RSI came down to about 22 at similar levels that it was at in 2019. And we just experienced a bullish cross below the zero line for the MACD. Now, does that mean that Ethereum is just going to rocket to the upside right now? Well, not necessarily, because like I just mentioned, if Bitcoin pulls back in the short term to $100,000, then we could see a double bottom for Ethereum before the breakout takes place, similar to what we saw happen right here from the 26th of August of 2019, Ethereum broke out relative to Bitcoin. Then we saw a double bottom right here before, it faced resistance again at this level that was support right here, right here, right here, consolidated right below it before breaking out and then holding this level as support while the relative strength index formed, higher lows and higher highs. And then the MACD as well too trended back above the zero line. And so right now, the stochastic RSI for ETH to Bitcoin is at 97 and 95. So we are in overbought conditions, which tells me that Ethereum will underperform Bitcoin for a little bit longer. We could experience a pullback in the short term, but eventually I think we will retest this key level right here at like 0.03 to 0.027, give or take. And when we see that reset on the stochastic RSI back down below 20, that in my opinion would be the best time to consider longing Ethereum, because look at the relative strength index. We've been in this downtrend since May of 2021, forming lower highs, and right now we're pretty much retesting this descending resistance right here. So if we don't see Ethereum pull back in the short term and we see it break this resistance, hold on top of it, and simultaneously ETH to Bitcoin starts breaking out further along with the MACD as well too, and Bitcoin's dominance starts to break down, well, that would be one of the main signals that the top of the market is coming very, very soon, because the last few bull runs when Bitcoin's dominance dropped, that was the best time to get out of Bitcoin and get into altcoins, because Bitcoin had experienced its major growth by then and there was less money to be made in Bitcoin and there was more money to be made in altcoins. So that's why I don't hold much Bitcoin right now, and I'm more bullish on altcoins, because we can see a regular bearish divergence forming on Bitcoin's dominance price chart, where the actual top formed, at like 70+% last bull run, and we're at about 64%. So the risk to reward ratio for the upside for Bitcoin, even if we push higher for Bitcoin in the short term, is just too much risk, not as much reward. And there's actually less risk in the DeFi liquidity pools that we've been teaching our members inside of Altcoin Pro University, and actually more upside for the rest of this bull run in very specific altcoins. For example, this post right here from Jose, he recovered his monthly subscription just by hanging out in the DeFi liquidity pools. He started with very little amounts the first few days just to test it out, and he kept adding more to it. He even entered into a trade around hype from our altcoin picks section. And you can see right here in USDC value, he's already paid for his monthly membership. Actually a couple months here. So our goal is to help you get realistic wins. And if you want to have even crazier wins, it depends on your budget. You know, you can see Pascal here took another 14 grand in profits from the Lulaboot token before the drop. And another coin right here a couple days ago, he sold for 5K in profits, which paid for his membership for over 5 years. So if you guys want to learn the DeFi liquidity pool strategies that have minimal risk and get access to our altcoin picks as well too, then tap in through the link in the description below, because there's still plenty of opportunity left with specific altcoins before the next major move in the market. For example, our research team posted GOAT on the 13th of October of 2024 when it was right at a penny, and since then it rallied to over $1, 5,000%. That's like turning $1,000 into over $50,000. Our team called Pendle at only a $16 million market cap, or 16 cents, back on February 18th of 2023, all the way back here, and since then it's rallied up over 4,000%. That's a 40x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $40,000. Our team also called BitTensor Tau September 15th, 2022, before the token was ever even launched. And since then, Tau has rallied over 2,000%. That's a 20x. Our team even said Solana is most likely to be one of the easiest trades next year, and this was posted December 29th, 2022, on the day that Solana bottomed out at around $8. And since then, Solana looks like it's up over 2,500%. That's a 25x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $25,000. The list goes on and on and on. Our team called Sui, Ondo, and even some of the biggest cult-based meme coins like MOG back in July 20th of 2023, the day that MOG launched. So if you want to learn how our team is finding these altcoins before they explode, we just launched Altcoin Pro University, where our research team gives you real-time altcoin picks with explosive potential for this bull run, along with 100+ expert curated classes crafted by industry experts to discover these gems yourself, on top of our live weekly calls every single week for in-depth crypto market analysis and daily updates. And that's just a fraction of what we offer inside of Altcoin Pro University through the link below. And although we make no guarantees because crypto is definitely risky, guys, this is only $97 a month or $970 a year. If you want to save $194, getting 2 months for free and unlock some exclusive bonuses, just go through the link in the description below. Get in right now. Watch the 26-minute video covering everything that Altcoin Pro University offers to help you become the first millionaire in your family tree, if that's a goal of yours. And you can get started through the link in the description below right now, or you can go to bullrunners.com to take advantage of the bonuses we're giving you before they expire. Everyone is loving the community. They're loving the education. They're getting access to real-time altcoin picks first before we ever make videos about them. So click the link in the description below, watch the video, and I'll see you on the inside.
Well, we go on, we go from the highest highs to the canyons fall. The great awakening's calling you.
My fellow Americans and time-traveling patriots, where we go one, we go all together. One nation, under God,